Welcome everyone to another edition of NeWBiEs. This is a short chat each week with Shirley Lynn and Wes Farrell from the U.S. Naval Academy. I am your host this week, Ann Bentley from Lewis and Clark College. I'm not going to try to give Anthony a run for his money. He's hosting 3, I think. But I'm curious to know, you guys, it sounds like are 1 month away from your last day of classes. So do you feel the end of the tunnel is in sight? How's it going at this point?
Yep, 4 weeks left. Not that anyone's counting, but yeah, we're coming down to the end here. We're getting into chapter 20, which in our book is crystal field theory and ligand field theory, which I'm excited to be getting into. I think this is part of the thing that really drew me into inorganic chemistry. So I'm happy to be ending on this note.
I was going to say that crystal field theory is probably one of the few topics I really do remember from undergraduate, because I thought it was so simple but powerful at the same time. And, you know, it explains all these properties, which is great. And the other thing I realized as I was making the notes for this section is, you know, how we talk about how antibonding is more antibonding than bonding is bonding back when we did MOs. So I realized that I had not had that concept in my head because of crystal field theory. You know, when you talk about the splitting due to the crystal field, there is this conservation of energy, right? So it depends on how many d orbitals go up in energy and how many go down, and that's conserved. So for some reason, I think in my head, I had applied that to all situations with all orbitals, including molecular orbital theory. But I was glad to get to there because I realized that I didn't just make it up, right? There was some reason that I thought to begin with. Yeah.
Well, I remember as a student, kind of having an aha moment to realize that crystal field theory and ligand field theory were explaining the same situation. And I think that's typical in chemistry, where we apply many options for how to interpret results that we see. And it was kind of mind expanding to realize that that delta O, it's the same. It was a source of confusion for a while. And I try to emphasize that with the students, like this, you know, one way to see it. And then in ligand field theory, the EG orbitals are actually anti-bonding if you're drawing the whole MO diagram for it, which is kind of interesting, but not entirely relevant, you know, to all the time. Yeah.
In talking about crystal field theory, you know, we're going through the spectrochemical series, and part of what I'm basically just saying is like, we're going to explain why this is a strong field ligand, but you just have to wait until we get to ligand field theory. So I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I almost view them as the same thing. We're just kind of breaking them up a little bit, but it's really one theory altogether. We're just kind of viewing it from different angles because they really do go hand in hand.
Yeah. And I think of crystal field theory as like the purely electrostatic. Like I talk about incoming ligands, and I like to do these little horns like for the electrons. And if you're an electron on the d orbital, like which one are you going to try to go to stay away from those incoming, you know, just very electrostatic, very anthropomorphized kind of thing too. But then ligand field brings in stuff that they've seen before with MO theory. Yeah, depending on how the course is organized. So are there any topics you feel like as you get close to the end, you wish you'd spent more time on or less time on, or just wish you'd had 2 semesters for?
So pacing as a newbie, right? Pacing is a huge issue because we just kind of didn't know what to expect. And of course, we were working off a syllabus from a previous iteration of the course. But I know that we spent a lot of time on symmetry and MO theory back at the beginning of the semester. And so it's and very little time on acid base, which is probably right. You know, it should be mostly a review. And now we're getting into the metal, you know, complexes. I think it was a good amount of time on coordination chemistry because a lot of that was new. We actually rolled in electron counting into coordination chemistry. And that's a skill that I think the students grasped onto as we can do this, like there's a method for doing it. And that was reassuring to them. But yeah, we're definitely not going to sort of do a formal part of the course that's bio-inorganic or catalysis or organometallic driven. So we've been talking about some ways to mitigate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they really enjoyed the electron counting specifically because it's very formulaic. So they were able to get through it really easily. And you kind of contrast that to things that are more applied. So I think electron counting almost kind of became slightly easier for them because there's a method and you just follow it, and it's kind of hard to stray from the course.
Yeah. And that's reassuring to them with all this new material coming. coming at the moment.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, Wes, I don't know if you encountered this, but as I was practicing, so we did covalent bond classification, CBC, electron counting. There's this sort of gray area of like, well, is this nitrogen, planar, or is it, so it could be L or it could be LX sometimes. And you're just trying to make those determinations are not always clear cut. But I kind of like the messiness. I like them to know, there are different ways to think about this depending on how the ligand geometry is with respect to the metal. So I don't know if you encountered some of that.
I don't think they had a lot of issues with that, but I'm not sure if that meant, I think it may have meant that they weren't thinking about it deeply enough. So maybe that's not a good thing. But I do like that about electron counting as a whole, because you're right, depending on the geometry, especially with nitrogen ligands, it tells you a lot about the electronic interaction between that ligand and the metal that you can kind of skip over that if you're just looking at it from a purely like our chapter 7 material, which is just coordination chemistry, or we kind of just asked about coordination number and denticity and things like that. The electron counting really forces you to think more about how many electrons are involved in that bond and shows the covalent nature of those bonds, which I don't think we get across as well if we don't consider the electron counting.
Do you all have any advanced classes in your curriculum, like a chance for them to take bioinorganic if they wanted to?
We offer electives. So I, for instance, offered an elective in organometallics, which was really going to dive deeply into bonding. Shirley was talking about pacing. We spent a lot of time on molecular orbital theory, and looking back, I think we should have spent even more time on it. And I know that's not possible, but I think it's just so important. So I was going to offer a course on organometallics that got really deeply into bonding and then got into catalysis. But we needed a minimum number of students to sign up for it. And I guess I just didn't make it attractive enough. So that one is not going. Shirley is offering a polymer chemistry course, though, which I think we'll get into some of that as well, but I'm not sure if we know the fate of that one yet.
Yeah, that's not until the spring. So we won't know for, another few months, because they sign up for the spring electives partway through the fall. Right. But yeah, my polymer synthesis course, which I have a subheading of, it's polymer synthesis from A-trap to Ziegler-Natta. So it's from A to Z. And I do bring in quite a bit of organometallics, as you can imagine, because of the polymerization aspects. And it's something I've taught several times, but not for more than 10 years. And once again, we're competing with all of our other colleagues who are offering awesome electives as well. So that gets to be a hard sell when it's a small group of majors that are taking these courses. But yes, I wish we had time for more inorganic special topics and also maybe more interdisciplinary electives, because they don't have to see chemistry as being so siloed the way it's presented, foundation course in organic and foundation course in PChem and et cetera. So it'd be really great to do more collaboration. So I don't know about at Lewis and Clark, if you found a good way to get students interested in sort of advanced inorganic.
Well, we do have electives and they're half credit courses, which is like a smaller risk kind of thing. Students are required to take either 2 half credit courses or a full 4 credit elective. But in terms of 4 credit electives, it's mostly biochemistry, which is not required for our major in chemistry, but that's, something that people often take. And then we each get to teach these 2 credits in our area of specialty, which I think makes it an interesting class because it's, right in the narrow spot where we're each focused. So, and recruitment wise, I think we offer only 1 of those per semester. So, and we've done a decent amount to try, like you said, interdisciplinarity. Last time I taught my nano course, I had a number of biology majors who were chemistry minors taking the class, and even had an East Asian studies major who's a chemistry minor taking the class. So, and I enjoy trying to encourage, people enrolling from other subjects. And when they do, it keeps me, trying to look out for applications in their areas to make sure it's interesting to them. So yeah, well, best of luck as you're heading off. I have to say that, I really admire your ability to focus each week on reflecting and planning, and it's an additional time commitment, I'm sure, on your part. And I've really enjoyed watching all the nano newbies, and we'll continue to cheer you on in the last month as you go out.
We need the cheering for sure.
Absolutely.
Just look at all the flowers blooming, and the birds chirping. To me, that's what I listen to in the spring, is they're cheering you on. Good luck. Take care.
Great.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ann.
Ann.